What's up, nerds? Today we're doing gangsta shit. So we're going to be doing film negative scanning. DaVinci Resolve recently added an update where you can actually process Sony RAWs, which means you can scan your film and convert your negatives all within DaVinci Resolve. Let's dive right into it. I'm going to show you guys my node tree. I'm going to go through some of my negatives. We're going to compare my scans through an A7R2, which is what I'm shooting on right now, compared to a Noritsu scanner. Noritsu scanners typically are very, very good. My favorite scans that I've always received back from the lab have always been on a Noritsu scanner. Love them. Having that said, shooting in 14-bit RAW on a Sony A7R2, you're gonna have more control over the colors, and also you're gonna be able to grade everything and color temp everything yourself. So you're gonna just ultimately have way more control, and you can keep a log of your RAWs as well as your scans once you're finished up your conversion. So yeah, let's dive right into it. First things first, obviously the most difficult step, open up DaVinci Resolve. So once you have that open, you're gonna open your new project, and you're gonna find the photos that you'd like to work on. So me personally, I'm gonna start with this photo shot on Ilfil Color 400. If you take your photos vertical or you take your photos landscape, you can kind of adjust the timeline for that. So I'll show you how to do that now. So create a new timeline, uncheck use project settings. And for resolution, we're actually just gonna change these. So I'm gonna have two timelines. One's gonna be 3000 by 2000 because they're 3:2 ratio. This is just for, like, if you want to go into pixel peeping and you want to set it up so it's like super, super large or whatever, go for it. I'm screen recording right now. We're gonna keep it a little more mellow. So, and then we're just gonna go back, name that one landscape, and we're gonna create another one. There we are. So now obviously I have to do a significant amount of cropping. This is the original negative. I have to do cropping in all my photos no matter what I do. So, okay. And once you've adjusted your zoom, your position, and your rotation angle correctly, you should have a little something like this. So now we're gonna be in the color page. So first things first, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have your scopes open on this tab here, and you're gonna want it in parade mode, because you're gonna be using this to ensure that colors are rated correctly and you're not just kind of white balancing by feel. Because when I first discovered that DaVinci now uses Sony RAW, I was just kind of doing it by eye. A lot of my scans were coming up bad. So we're actually gonna use a method that is definitively set up for scanning negatives by using the scopes. I believe this was in an article on lomography. I can't remember where. Someone else made this node tree and it just kind of blew my head off. Very smart. So Alt-S, you're gonna want to create your first node. You're gonna name this one. I name it bright to remind myself that this is your color generator key for the brightness of the negative. And then you're actually gonna add another node that's going to be a parallel node, and they're gonna mix together. You're also gonna add You're also going to add a standard corrector on its own as a note. So this one I like to name key output. And I connect it to this node to remind myself that on this node here, we're gonna name this one subtract. There it is. So I connect this here. It doesn't do anything, but I only connect it there as a note to remind myself to add the out key. Now that you have your bright, your subtract, your mixer here, well, when you add the parallel node, it'll create the mixer there, and then your key out node. That's just as a reminder, because you're gonna need to adjust that for every single photo you're doing. So first things first, you are going to open up this bright one, highlight that. We're gonna put in color generator. So add the color generator, and now we're gonna hit the number of the node to get rid of it. And with this color picker here, you're gonna go to your film scan on the actual screen, and you're gonna find the brightest part of it, which is actually gonna be the darkest part of it. So I would say that's probably somewhere around over here. That kind of looks like it. Looks like the best we're gonna get. So now we just have this generated color of that. So now you unmute this node, come over to the subtract node. You're gonna go into composite at the very bottom here, and you're gonna hit subtract. That's why it's named that. So now you kind of have a negative conversion, kind of. So now past the parallel, we're gonna add another node. So this one's gonna be named scope. So now in the subtract here, this is the part where we're gonna wanna key this out. So you'll notice that we're clipping in all of the bottom of our scopes here. We're completely losing so much detail in there. So we're gonna raise that up by going to our key portion of the grading kit here. And we're gonna go to key output. We're gonna lower the key output and raise it up and find that sweet spot. You notice the lowest one is the red, so the red, we're gonna sit it right on top. It's better to leave a little bit of room than to clip it, because you want as little compression as possible. So now we're good on the subtract node. Now we can move back over to the scope node. So on the scope node, you're gonna go to the color wheels, you're gonna set luminance mix to 0, this one right here. Then from there, we're going to go back to our curves, unlink them, and now we're gonna start with the red curve. So here's where you're gonna wanna be looking at your scopes. So you're gonna raise this up, essentially until this portion of the red reaches the very top, the 1023 of the scope here. So we're gonna bring that right up. And I know you're gonna be like, oh, it's turning everything red. Well, we're gonna adjust green and blue as well. So we're just gonna keep rolling through. That's pretty close to clipping. So now we're gonna do green as well. Bring that right up. DaVinci's really jumpy right now because I'm recording, but I think it's just gonna need to be that way. So that's pretty dang close. Now we're gonna go to the blues. So that's pretty damn close. So now from here, like another way of doing it, like here is where things with the node tree can kind of differ in the way you do things and the way I do things. The way I do it is I will actually play with the blue in the gain of our curves here. But another way of doing it is you can just set everything properly where the nodes are spread evenly the way they are now in the curves, in the scope. And then after that, you can add a node, name it temp, and then you can adjust color temperature from there. So then you could just go to your color wheels, you can grab the eyedropper, and you can just do a white balance that way where it'll slightly adjust things. So like here, for example, see, I have it a little bit warm, and now this temp node is gonna cool it off a little bit. I'm not gonna do that. I'll just leave it there. So from here now, I am going to adjust this the way I would do it. So I'm gonna pull away some blue, leave it right there. We're gonna pull a little bit of green out as well. And you know what? That looks pretty bang on to me, and that's without using the temperature node. If you want to do like an auto white balance thing, it's available there in the color wheels. It's just right here in the white balance tab. So you can have that there. So next, I'll add another node. So temp you don't necessarily require, that's up to you once again, but the next node I would add is gonna be called latitude. So now is where you're gonna adjust some contrast if you'd like. You're gonna adjust your highlights a little bit. So you'll notice in the curves here, there's a lot of dead zone here. Film is very, very good for having like a very natural highlight roll off. But as you can tell in this photo, it's a little bit dim in the highlights. The dynamic range is causing the highlights to be very, they're brought down, right? So we're gonna raise those back up. So we're gonna very carefully raise them nice and even. I don't usually like to add contrast in the shadows simply because film will already compress your shadows. Your shadows are already gonna lose a lot of detail unless you're typically overexposing. So I'm not huge on, like you can, I mean, you know, if you're scanning in Sony RAW or anything like that, like obviously you're going to have the details within your scans, but like, you know, you could do that, but you're also losing a ton of detail in here that's already not really there because it's film, right? So typically I won't do that. I kind of like the flatness in the shadows. And yeah, from here, that's essentially it. Now you've converted your film negatives in DaVinci Resolve, which is a free software. The free version should be able to process Sony RAWs or Canon RAWs and all that stuff. I know Canon RAWs have been processable for years now, but Sony RAW is a more recent thing within maybe the past few months. So there you go. And we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nodes, not using one of them. And then this one is just a reminder. So if you save this as a Powergrade, that's the reason I have this reminder node here. So now if you want to reset all these, actually the scope you might not want to reset. You can just only reset your curves tab right here. And you can actually leave the luminance mix on 0 because you're just going to constantly be going back to turn that to 0 anyway. So you can get rid of that. The subtract, I recommend putting it back to normal and then leaving it like this, right? So you have the subtract composite turned off, back to normal. You have the bright muted, because even though this bright node is muted, you can still use the color picker, find the brightest spot, and it'll still generate that color for you. And then you just swap it over to the subtract node. And it's as simple as that, right? So that's essentially the node tree. All right, Taylor from the future here. I completely forgot to show you guys how to, 1, save a Powergrade, and 2, how to export the photo when it's done. Duh. Okay, so we're gonna do that now. So this file was saved with the unedited photo. So to save your node tree here, on the side gallery here, you're gonna set it to Powergrade. You're gonna right click the actual image on the right side, grab still, and then you'll notice you have this additional little screen here. And then if you put your mouse just under the title of it and click, you'll be able to name it. So mine's gonna be named, I'm dumb for forgetting this part. That's how you save the Powergrade. Exporting the photo is actually extremely similar. It's almost the same thing. You're just gonna move it to stills, just above Powergrade, right click, grab still, and then once it appears here, then you right click this still. You're gonna go to export. You can name it whatever you like, anything you want under the sun. And then you got PNG, you got JPEG, you got all these different file types. I don't need to teach you how to do that stuff. But yeah, and then, go to there, you want a PNG. Bingo, bango. I fixed the video. And there you go. I forgot that part. When I first started recording the video, I kind of did it under the assumption that a lot of people use DaVinci Resolve. But as I was editing this, I realized that, you know what? I really should do this for people who have never used DaVinci Resolve, because it's a free software. Now you know how to save a Powergrade, and now you know how to export your photo. Okay, back to the video. We're gonna do a second photo. This is Pheonix 200. Now, Pheonix 200 is notoriously film stock that people say, like, scanners are never good. You're always gonna wanna home scan these because the color temp is just so buck wild on this stuff, which, I kind of agree, that is true. So now we have that Powergrade built. So now we're gonna use that. I've already shown you how to build a node tree. So now I have my film scanning color node grade here. I'm just gonna drag it over. I am going to find the brightest portion, which is essentially the darkest portion, but when you have it in a negative like this, you're gonna find the brightest portion of it. Actually, we do have an edge of the film strip here, so we're gonna use that. So now that I've set that, subtract, there we are. So I'm not even gonna bother crop, or actually, you know what? No, because of the scopes, I do need to crop this. So let me go back just one moment here. Now we're gonna go over to our key output. We're gonna set the dynamic range of the output here. We're gonna pretty much do the same thing. Make sure that the lower portions of your scopes here are all raised above. So the blues are what are really sitting low here. And Pheonix 200 is an extremely contrasty film. So you'll notice on the blues right now that it's almost a completely flat line where everything's cut off. It could be due to my underexposure. I know that this was shot on a Asahi Pentax SP1000, which it's an old mercury battery style light meter, so you can't really use the light meter. So I was metering for light manually that day. I do remember that. So now we have everything set pretty evenly there. Remember, you're gonna want your luminance mix at 0. I have that saved in my Powergrade. So now we go over curves, make sure you unlink them, and we're gonna even everything out. So go to red, bring that right up without clipping, find that sweet spot. Go to green, same thing. There we go. Now we're nearly good. You'll notice in my Powergrade that I have a couple other things added. I have this vignette node added as well. That was mainly because I was, when I was scanning, when I first started, I was noticing I was getting light leaks just by surrounding light in my apartment. So since then, I've kind of created like, I wrap a binder around it, like my film negative binder, so I don't get any light leaks into taking the photos of the negatives. So that's not too big an issue now. That's why it's muted. I have temperature. I also have added sharpness just for certain photos because on my A7R2, I have the details set to -7. I prefer to do sharpening in post, not in camera. The in-camera sharpening is almost never good. So I have that available there. We're not going to be using it though. To be honest with you, like they're film photos. You don't usually want to sharpen them unless it's a film stock that's very, very fine grain, you know, like Ektar 100 or Portra 160 or something like that. So now we're going to go over to latitude. Remember, in latitude, when you're adjusting your curves for contrast, you're going to want to link them all back together. Jumping between scope and latitude, you're going to want to make sure that you're linking and unlinking them. You know, you can always Control Z and fix it, but yeah. So we're going to go to our latitude. We're just gonna give it a little more dynamic range because this is a little bit overexposed. It is like, you can tell in the scopes on the Parade here that it is clipping on both ends, and that's because of the latitude of Pheonix 200 just isn't that great. Like the exposure range, I should say, it's not bonkers, as the kids would say. So we can tinker with it a little bit though. But like just putting a dent in the curve. I really don't like to do S-curves. I find that the look of it on film, it doesn't look that great. Since we have so much detail here in the shadows, I'm thinking like we can bring this down significantly lower. But the oranges are extremely strong in this film stock. I mean, you can correct it. You know, here, I'll show you how to correct it really quick. So in our final node here, this one's just an extra one that I like to have available. So we're gonna go over to hue versus saturation. And we're gonna add a couple nodes here in the orange area. So on both of these, you're gonna wanna make sure that the saturation is set to 1.0. And then the input hue, you can slide around here. So we're gonna use these as borders for our pulling of oranges. So right in this area is where those colors are gonna be. So we're actually gonna move this one right over. And we're gonna pull down that super saturated orange. So you can do that just to, like that little bit right there. Here is it on, here is it off. That little bit right there like immediately adds so much to the photo. So little things like that, you can do corrections because Pheonix 200 is a very experimental stock, as well as this Pheonix 200 was shot in October of 2024. So I was rescanning some film and I really wanted to retry Pheonix 200 because I know they were consistently working on it and updating it as they were making that film stock. So yeah, now I suppose I'll show you guys a little slideshow of some befores and afters of the Noritsu scanner versus the A7R2 scans that I was able to get. Yeah, I'll show you guys that. That's pretty much gonna be the end of the video. So thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. And you know, if you wanna see more film photography content, that's great because there's more on the way. Thanks so much. Peace, guys.